A boy awakened a skill that allowed him to endlessly summon items, but everything he drew was useless junk or spoiled food. Everyone thought his skill was worthless, nothing but a pathetic ability. What they didn't know was that his skill was actually godlike. He just hadn't figured it out yet. Light lived in a world filled with racial prejudice. The goddess had created 9 distinct races, and humans were at the very bottom of the hierarchy, with a literacy rate close to 0, viewed as the weakest race. In hopes of giving his family a better life, Light left his hometown and moved alone to the big city, determined to become a great adventurer. But reality turned out to be far harsher than his dreams. Upon arriving in the city, he was simply standing there for a moment when an arrogant orc roughly pushed him aside and insulted him as garbage blocking the way. Terrified, Light apologized, and then went to the Adventurers Guild to look for work. At the registration desk, the girl asked him about his talent skill, which determined his starting rank. With hope in his heart, Light proudly announced his skill, Infinite Gacha. To prove himself, he demonstrated it right then and there. A light flashed, and the gacha machine spat out a card. Light called out the activation, but what appeared was a strange fork. Not giving up, he tried again, but this time, it was a rotten apple. On his third attempt, he drew nothing but moldy bread. The receptionist lost her patience, and immediately ranked him as an F-class adventurer. She then assigned him only menial tasks, like collecting firewood and hauling dirt. Light had no choice but to accept these tedious jobs. He worked tirelessly all day, barely earning enough to pay for that night's lodging. Just as he had saved up a bit of money, a group of orcs robbed him, calling it a cleaning fee. Light begged for mercy, but the orcs just laughed and kicked him aside, leaving with cruel taunts. Lying on the cold ground in despair, a beautiful fairy from the elven race appeared and reached out to him. She gave him a tight hug, offering kind words of comfort, and for the first time in his life, Light wondered if he was dreaming. It turned out they were part of a team made up of all 9 races, united with the goal of eradicating racial prejudice and establishing equality. The team included the orc Karu, the elf Sasha, the dragon, man Dorag, and other elites from various races. They told Light they needed a human to complete the team's racial balance, and invited him to join. This was the first time Light had ever heard someone say, "We need you," and he was so moved that he immediately accepted, tears in his eyes. After joining, he experienced warmth and acceptance like never before. During a dangerous dungeon exploration, Light's fear and weakness caused him to be attacked by monsters several times. But every time, his teammates stepped in to save him. Whenever he was injured, Sasha was the first to treat him, scolding him lightly, but her eyes full of concern. The team often teased him playfully, and the captain would pat his shoulder to comfort him. Light naively thought he had finally found partners he could trust for life. In reality, all their kindness was part of an elaborate performance. One day, deep in the Abyss dungeon, the captain suddenly announced in front of everyone that Light would be kicked out of the team. Light was shocked and stammered, asking why. The captain sneered and revealed the truth. They had been assigned to monitor him from the very beginning. The higher-ups had suspected that his infinite gacha might hide legendary power, so they had sent people to get close to him and observe. After monitoring him for some time, the conclusion was that Light's skill was utterly useless, and his abilities were no different from an average person's. Sasha immediately showed her disgust, complaining that the thought of marrying a human made her sick. Once they confirmed Light was useless, they decided to dispose of him like trash, even issuing a more brutal order. The captain coldly declared they needed to eliminate Light to avoid future problems. The rest of the team immediately attacked, surrounding him as prey. Terrified, Light tried to escape, but was shot in the leg and fell. The smiling faces he once trusted now twisted into mocking grins as they watched his suffering, clearly enjoying his pain. As he lay dying, the werewolf hypocritically said he would end Light's misery himself. Just as the werewolf's sharp claws were about to pierce his heart, a teleportation circle suddenly lit up beneath his feet. A beam of light whisked him away, transporting him to the deeper, more dangerous part of the dungeon. Light barely escaped with his life, only to find himself abandoned in the deepest, most perilous part of the abyss. The place was crawling with powerful monsters, and with his current strength, he could be torn apart at any moment. In his despair, he thought of his family and the fake warmth he had once felt, and was consumed by an overwhelming sense of grief and anger. He gritted his teeth, vowing to take revenge and make the betrayers pay. Before he could even finish his vow, a level 10 two-headed monster appeared before him, knocking him back into reality. Faced with such a mythic level beast, Light fell into utter despair, knowing his current strength was no match for it. The only thing he could do was gamble with his ridiculed, infinite gacha. On the brink of death, Light poured everything into activating the gacha. In an instant, the machine released a brilliant light, and a stunning maid appeared, angrily chastising the Hellhound for its arrogance. The next second, the level 10 Hellhound disappeared into ash in the light. As the light faded, The beautiful maid in a maid outfit knelt before Light and gently healed his wounds. Light was stunned to find all his injuries healed in an instant. He asked in shock who this maid was. With a solemn and captivating voice, the maid asked his name and called him Master. Upon hearing that his name was Light, the maid's eyes lit up with adoration and loyalty, and she swore to serve him forever. Her name was May, a super rare card summoned by Light's infinite gacha. She was an explorer maid, with a level of 9,999. Light was utterly shocked. He couldn't understand how his ridiculed skill had summoned such a powerful being. May asked to appraise her master's skill to uncover its true secret. During the appraisal, May discovered that infinite gacha was protected by a powerful veil, only visible to those with equivalent strength. It turned out that the probability of drawing cards and their level fluctuated with the surrounding magical energy. In areas with low magical concentration, like the human world, the odds of drawing low, level, or useless cards were high. But in the abyss, where the magic density was extreme, the chances of drawing ultra-rare or even divine cards skyrocketed. May mistakenly thought that Light had intentionally come here to activate his skill's potential, and she began to admire him. Light, in turn, shared the painful story of his betrayal by his teammates, and how he had almost been killed, vowing never to forgive them. Upon hearing his tragic story, May's gaze turned cold, and she immediately offered to help him eradicate his enemies. Light stopped her, looking at his hands, and saying that all his misfortunes stemmed from his own weakness. He vowed to grow stronger on his own, and take revenge himself. May, moved by his determination, solemnly promised to assist his growth with all her might as a maid. And so, a boy abandoned by the world, and a loyal, powerful maid forged a new alliance in the depths of the abyss. Light turned the infinite gacha again, swearing to build his own kingdom of vengeance. From this moment on, his revenge and rise to power began.